Well, welcome everyone. It is the 22nd of November, and we are involved in our Regional Housing and Growth Issues Advisory Group meeting today. We have a group of panelists, and then hopefully many of our advisory group partners are going to jump in. I'm Kiki Miller. I'll be moderating this, and the focus of this meeting today is to catch everybody up to speed on where we're at with our subcommittees, with the work that we've done to date, and then kind of lay out the plan that we're going to be looking towards as we go into the new year. So if you received your agendas, I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. I've been doing a few presentations. Some of you know I was at NIBCA. We went to the Ignite board. I will be talking with the Women's Association of Realtors group and a few others just to keep the community up to speed on what the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership is doing, how we started, where we're at. I know that one of the things that's coming up in the first year, we've mentioned this before, but we are going to try to put an agenda item out there so that we can find a better public outreach location for and a social media type present website location than KMPO. So we have the ability to keep the public up to speed on what we're doing and engaged in as we come up with some of these new ideas. I see we still have some panelists popping in, so I'll give them another minute. As we go through, I'll remind you all that this is a full advisory group meeting. So the panelists are ones who are part of the working group, and the working group meets every month to go over the details of what the advisory group has shared with us. And then we have a monthly advisory group meeting where we get them up to speed on any progress we've made. So the first thing, Maggie, if you're able, can you just start sharing with the group where we're at with the housing assessment? You look like you're in a bright, sunny spot.
You know, I'm working from home today, and it is such a beautiful, glorious day, right? So I'm getting a lot more sun, I think, than like Dennis or David is getting, or Hillary's getting, or you're getting, right? Because I'm not seeing that, but yeah. So is it bothersome with it in the background?
No, we can hear you, and we know that everybody has got their are anxiously awaiting this housing assessment, and I know that it's taken quite a few twists and turns and additions, and so we work just so that the rest of the group knows. Maggie and the University of Idaho team and Jenny, we get together every week and discuss details on how this report is coming together and what else is out there in the community. So if Maggie, you want to get us up to speed on where we're at and what we can expect, that'd be great.
I can. So just, you know, top level is they are behind, right? They've already missed their deadline, and they recognize that because the assessment has taken on a lot broader scope than what was originally planned, but it's good. And I think they're working this entire week to get us the first draft, which will be, I think, in fairly close final form, but it's still going to be a draft. So they said to expect that by December 2nd, and they felt confident that December 15th would be an issue date for the report. I will tell you that they took us through a number of sections of the report last week. The data is quite thorough. It's encouraging to see the way that they're putting it together. So I think it really is going to be that rudder for us that we had hoped when we first embarked on this effort. And this group has given a lot of good feedback through Kiki. There's been great cooperation, I think, with this, and they've been really grateful for all of the support from the jurisdictions and other, I guess, really invested individuals as well as businesses in this whole issue. So I'm pretty confident based on last week that we will see the report by the middle of December. They were pretty emphatic. Good. So keep your fingers crossed.
Good. So Maggie, then for everyone's knowledge, where will this report be available, and who do we expect is going to be the leaders using the data in this report?
Well, of course, it'll go out through this group, right, to the working group as well as the entire advisory group. Jobs Plus or Ginny's group will certainly post it to their website. Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance will post it to our website. I've started a list from people who have just reached out to me saying, please get me a copy of the report. So if one of you on this call would like to have a direct send, I can do that. I'm happy to do that. And so that's how we plan to distribute it. And I'm sure that I'm hopeful that the press We'll also put it on their website. I mean, this is a really public report. We want as many people to read it as possible. The users hopefully will be kind of this entire group, right? That's meeting regularly, that's interested in this. All the developers, hopefully. We're going to be challenging, I think, the community at large to work, even though there are a lot of individual interests, to try and work cooperatively and collaboratively to try and address, because there are a lot of different solutions, and there's not any single solution to this problem. And so if we can invest it, I think, in the minds and hearts of the entire community and have everybody working towards solutions with this rudder telling us really what the data is telling us, then I think we'll be in good shape starting next year to start planning.
And I will share too on that report that as we put this together, there have been a number of other reports and surveys that the community has done. That North Idaho building contractors did a impact on the building to the local economy report, and that was forwarded to the University of Idaho team. There was a regional chamber of commerce survey that went out. I think this working group discussed that, and that was forwarded to the University of Idaho team. So they have really kind of collated all of the reports and the information and the data that they can from all these other entities, many of whom will participate in this group and have been well aware that those things are going on and considered that in their conversations too. So thanks, Maggie. We'll look forward to the middle of December, and I'm sure there'll be a press release, and we will be able to, it sounds like it's going to be available in multiple places. So then
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, please.
Hillary, there's already one chat asking for it. Will you print off the chats and get those to me, or do you want me to write those down?
We'll do that. I think also we can just send this to the whole group once the report's ready.
I hope so.
That's probably the easiest way. But yeah, we'll track the chats and
thanks.
Let you know. Yeah, thanks, Maggie.
Great. So I know that Jeff was unable to be here because of a meeting, but he did submit a report on the progress for the school subcommittee. Hillary, do you want to go over that?
Sure, I'll give it a quick report for Jeff. So he said this month we met with Representative Amador to discuss the funding needs that school districts are facing as a result of growth and development, and to request his support of impact fees legislation that should be presented in this next legislative session. We were able to have a positive discussion and answer his questions about the challenges we are facing. We would like to schedule a similar meeting with Representative Addis. We have started a conversation with the Idaho School Board Association on the steps it would take to gain support for an idea that would enhance a tool that is currently available but has limitations. A school plant facility levy can be used to fund school maintenance and construction. This levy has a sliding approval rating of 55%, 60%, or 66% based on the amount of the ask and debt capacity of the school district. However, this type of levy has a 10-year term, which makes it harder to build a school, and the ask amount needs to be higher. If the term were adjusted to 20 years, a district would have the ability to ask for a lower amount over a longer period of time to help manage the annual burden on local taxpayers. So that was his report. Sounds like they're making some good progress and having positive conversations.
Great. Do we know if they're going to have a meeting before the end of the year?
I am not sure about that. I don't know if any of the school district representatives are on right now. If they wanted to post something in the chat to let us know if they're aware of any meetings.
Okay. Well, we'll if not, we will in January hear if they've had a meeting, and the session will have started by then. So I'm guessing we'll get some positive updates and more information from the school subcommittee at that point. So the next on the agenda is I'll touch briefly on the open space subcommittee, and I'll just remind everyone that what we had done in the past is, as these issues, this was to address the survey that we sent out to this group, and the #1 priority they wanted was for this group to address open space on the prairie. So we did go through months of work on that. It culminated with a meeting to bring together, I think there was 17 or 18 people invited to that meeting. There is not an individual or an organization that stepped up to lead an open space subcommittee. So at this point, we don't have one. I would again tell you that I had been contacted by Kootenai Environmental Alliance, as well as a number of, in fact, another, regional wildlife biologist group, and a group that wanted to work on discussing wildlife corridors on the prairie and getting some sort of conservation easements put together. Again, the white paper that the county had done discusses a lot of those issues, but without anyone or any single entity who wants to lead. This group is a resource providing entity, but we will not implement or enact these programs. So if a group does come together, I'm happy to connect them with the other people who can support any of these efforts and get them up to speed. We will talk about anything that has come to fruition after the first of the year on that subject as well. But at this point, there is not a specific open space committee to give a report from. Still a ton of interest, pretty hot topic. Everybody wants to see what's gone on there, but we have posted all the notes and everything that we have and the work that we've done, so that the frequently asked questions on the KMPO website addresses most of these issues and where we're at with them regarding the preservation of open space on the prairie. So now I'll move into the rest of the agenda, and we're going to be talking about local worker housing solutions and the education discussion. One of the most important things that the working group has done is we've expanded the group to include a number of other people. We invited Maggie from the Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance to join the working group, and she's agreed to do so. We also invited Mark Tucker from United Way, and he has agreed to become a member of that. We also invited James Casper from Habitat for Humanity, and Corey Phelps from the Idaho Housing and Finance
Association.
I was going to say, is that an A or a C? From Idaho Housing and Finance. Got it. And so the reason that we're doing that is in our working group discussions, just so that this advisory group knows this, how we address local worker housing from this financial aspects, and who are the people who have the expertise that can help us build this. This isn't about discussing primarily low income. It's about taking the information that is coming out of this housing assessment and putting together, kind of bolstering our working group to be able to say, what are solutions that we already have, what can be expanded within organizations that already exist, and who has the expertise. I'm sorry, one other person who is added to that group was Len Crosby, and he gave us a report in the past on some of the land trust and those uses. So that group is now a larger group, which we're going to start after the first of the year, delving into what some of these resources look like and how we can put together a proposal to go back to these different organizations in order to utilize them. So the working group will meet at the beginning of December. And the goal for that agenda is to kind of carve out where we're at with some of these projects, what parts we should tackle and move forward, and basically get an agenda built so that we can do some really great work based on the housing assessment on putting forward to the advisory group what type of housing management structure there should be, could be, the continuing education of that piece of it, as well as some of these toolkit items that these folks have a lot more expertise in putting together. So that will happen in the beginning of December. One of the things on that agenda is going to be dealing with the pros and cons of what all these housing management structures look like. And that will help us educate the rest of the advisory group so that when a survey comes out, they're very well informed and able to share with their respective organizations what the consequences of making these choices. Again, I'll remind you that we at the working group level had in-depth discussions as to who are we, where are we going, why are we doing this. This organization is a resource group. It's not going to implement these programs. It's going to work collectively to provide information and to be a resource group for any of these housing management structure or any of these other organizations that can implement solutions in our community to the housing situation. So that's what we'll continue to do and continue to build on. I wanted to share with you that I attended the NIBCA general membership meeting, and the Director of Tax and Trade Policy for the National Association of Home Builders did a great presentation. I forwarded a lot of that information to the University of Idaho, but they basically are giving us information on what the effects of the housing and building industry on the economy locally are based on the NIBCA's last housing and growth cost revenue for local government. So I think that some of that information is part of the collective body of work that I'm hoping after the first of the year, we can put these studies along with the housing assessment together out on websites, so that any of those pieces of information that people want to get a hold of, compare and add as a toolkit item, they'll be available too. So another just piece of information, John Manley gave a presentation regarding Post Falls and some of the growth issues and things that they're dealing with and some changes that they see on the horizon. That information was forwarded as well. And just letting you know that this is still a hot topic. It's still being addressed by each of these groups individually. And I'm trying to gather and collate all that information so that we have it collectively, and there's one place to store those resources. So I want to move into reviewing real quickly what we'll be doing again. The beginning of December is the working group with the expanded folks involved. We'll have an agenda there that is going to be introductory for them primarily, and discussions for the pros and cons for the January full advisory group. The December advisory group meeting is canceled because of the holidays. January, we'll have a working group meeting, which at that time, my project for the month of December is to go back and visit with all of the mayors. We have new people who are going to be in elected positions in January, and we have new people who are on the working group. So between now and January, I'll be visiting with each of the cities to get a good report back to the advisory group on their level of commitment, who their participants are going to be, and making sure that they know what our mission and agendas coming into the first of the year are. So I expect that January is going to be a busy working group meeting and a very detailed advisory group meeting too, because we have a lot of changes that are going to be incorporated, and we'll know what they are by then. So that's what our goals are up until the end of January. And then we still have more people who are asking to be involved in the group. So we will, at the January working group meeting, kind of do a reassessment of what is our direction, what are the things that we know we need to knock off. So under the next thing, so that's our goals there. The other two things I want to touch on, and hopefully we don't have a super long meeting today, but I want to talk about the housing toolkit and all of those submissions that we kind of went through. I think Hillary had kind of a summary of most of those. We're waiting for one more on annexation potential and how that can affect housing. And those are what those are, and what we're talking about is the toolkit that we've been building is a toolkit of solutions that can be utilized. I think we've got about 22 that we're looking at, but we have discussed going through some of these to be included in the housing assessment so that they're going to be used as examples. So Hillary, do you want to talk about those real briefly?
Sure. So this, which you can see on the screen, there's a couple of them, and these line up with what's on the agenda. So we kind of looked through the long list. There's about 20, as Kiki mentioned, that are kind of in our draft toolkit, but we wanted to figure out which ones might be worthy of looking into. The first one is the first right of refusal policy. And this one, Melissa, she's on today as well. So if I don't get this exactly right, we can have Melissa chime in. But a lot of communities and states are using this to be able to have it so that if there's someone comes in and makes an offer on a property, that an organization, so a nonprofit that does housing development, could come in and say they'll match that price. And so they get the first right of refusal. And this works well for being able to retain affordable housing projects. So even old apartments, old motels that could be converted are ones that tend to be kind of in that first right of refusal option. Looking at the short-term rental code, that's something we've talked about before. So currently, Coeur d'Alene is the only city in Kootenai County, I believe, that has short-term rental ordinance. And when it was adopted, we took the light touch, but we've been realizing that other cities throughout the state have a little bit more restrictive codes that still meet all the state statutes. And so we wanted to take a look at that as well, because a lot of the housing stock that are being used for short-term rentals could be taking away from our affordable housing for our residents. So there's different ways of looking at owner-occupied versus non-owner occupied, limiting the certain number of minimum nights stay, things like that. The multi-generational housing is something we've talked about before. There are a few builders in the area that are looking to do this. And so it's 2 generations of the same family or more. It could be 3 families living under one roof. And so there's different ways that communities look at this. So some look at it as it's just one single family home, but other communities are looking at it that it's 2 dwelling units. So it's either a house and an accessory dwelling unit or a duplex, because there are fully functioning residential units just connected. And there's different ways they could be physically connected. So looking at how some of our codes could address it more specifically, in particular, Coeur d'Alene and Hayden would need to make some modifications for that. But that seems to be a low-hanging fruit option. And then the last one on this screen is Community Land Trust for Affordable Housing. And this is similar to what Habitat for Humanity is doing. And we've talked about this before, where Habitat will retain the ownership of the land, and then the home buyers would buy the home itself, not the land. And then they would be able to get equity on the home, but it would be capped at a certain amount. So when they sell, they take equity, but they don't get the full equity you would have in a normal situation. And then Habitat would have the ability, first right of refusal to buy the home again and keep it in that affordable housing structure. And then the one we're waiting on is to look at annexations as a possible tool to allow for more local worker housing to be part of a project. So if an annexation were to be approved, evaluating that to determine are there some benefits and some way of providing or preserving local worker housing.
Great. And Hillary, on a couple of these, I think that these need to be explained that they aren't things that we're doing right now. They are things that we're using as examples. And so will the rest of them as we vet these out and build. These are just examples of things that are going to be in the toolkit as suggestions. So thank you. I wanted to touch base. It seems like there was another item that we were talking about, and I don't have it on my notes. I will share too that there was an article in Sandpoint magazine, and I'm not positive if even Maggie has the 2019 Sandpoint housing study. If you do, I'm trying to get my hands on that. I don't have a copy of it, but I want to put it with this coalition of reports. It was done the end of 2019. I'm mentioning that because just for the advisory group to educate yourself, there was a very good article that covered a lot of some of the similar types of programs that the Sandpoint area has gotten involved with in Sandpoint magazine in this fall issue that just came out. It's an article, it's on page 88. So you can go online and go to page 88 if they're flipped through, and it's a very good synopsis of some of the things that our neighbors are just as challenged as we are and are trying to put together some of the same programs. We are looking at other communities continually as far as what they have done. And I have had a number of people from Treasure Valley, from Spokane, from Washington State reach out to find out where we're at. And everyone's trying to wrestle with this housing issue regionally and across the country. So we're still using everyone's information, and I'm sharing as to best of my ability there.
Kiki, who sponsored the Sandpoint 2019 housing assessment? Do you know?
I do not know. I understood that it was the City of Sandpoint Commission, and it was that the City of Sandpoint commissioned it with a very large group of people. So it had 30 some individuals, and so I haven't gotten down to the roots of that one yet.
I'll see if I didn't know about it, so I'll see if I can.
And I think Hillary's done some work on trying to get a copy of that too. So we'll have the three of us connect to make sure that we can track that down.
Great.
And I'll post the link to the article in the chat function so everyone can see that.
Thank you. So the last couple of things on our agenda today is I wanted to touch base on the ongoing education of the housing management structures, just so that everyone knows. We were talking about looking at the 3 types of housing management and what we would do. And the working group, we had a discussion to make sure that this advisory group knows that the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership is not going to be the entity that becomes this housing structure. It will be something else. If the community comes back and says through our surveys, once we have the ability to have all of these advisory group folks be very well informed about what these different structures are, whether it's a state statute housing authority, whether it's just expanding the capabilities of the local entities that already and supporting what they're already doing, or creating a new collaborative effort that puts together all the regional housing entities and kind of takes on a case-by-case basis how they can assist in this, helping developers themselves get their hands around how we can solve some of these problems. So we're going to continue to do that. And as that education piece comes together, there's going to be a lot more input requested from the community on how we put this together. The important thing being at the end of where we come up with this survey, it will then move on to whatever the answer to the survey was, another entity to execute or to build or to do nothing. If that's what the results come back, that the community doesn't want anything else done in that area, then this group will continue to be an informational resource. So we'll continue to have a question and answer piece about that. The last thing I had on my agenda, if any of the panelists have anything else that they wanted to jump in and that I've overlooked, sharing that is that any updates to the FAQs, we've had a couple of things come in there. I have a list now of 9 more articles that need to be added to the website that have come out on housing and growth. So in January, we're going to put a big collection together of links to all of these reports I'm talking about and link them all to the website so anyone can go to this specific report. I think Len forwarded that, maybe I mentioned this a minute ago, the regional chambers of commerce did a survey and they had a lot of data in there, but it's that types of reports that I will be adding to our website to say, here's the other reports, as well as all of the progress that we've made. So January is going to be a big update month, and hopefully we have some plans so that we can get some discussion on moving that website to somewhere else. And I think we had a couple of other questions, and that's all I have on the agenda for today.
Kiki, I'm sorry, I need to excuse myself for another meeting.
Great, thanks for being here, David.
You bet, take care.
Kiki, there's a question in the chat. I don't know if you saw that. It's from Nash. If the affordable housing is assessed well above the homeowner's exemption mark, is there something that would adjust for that situation? And I don't know. I'm not sure. That's kind of like a state level and a county question. And I'm not sure if our partners at IHFA, if Corey, if you've seen that in any Idaho cities, or if anyone else on the working group or advisory group has an answer on that one.
Well, if it's specific to like multifamily, I know that certain counties can be more difficult, but again, multifamily, there isn't a homeowner's exemption. So I guess I'm not understanding 100%, but I mean, just broadly speaking, you know, when you build a rent restricted apartment complex, and if they are trying to tax it at market, that makes it extremely difficult because the rents are restricted. So I don't know if that's what the reference was to, but yeah, we do know that it is an issue in certain counties.
Maybe we can do a little more research on that one and add it to the FAQs. I'll keep that chat open.
And there was a follow-up in there too from Nash. Also, with the first right of refusal, would the rate at which it could be purchased be at a third-party assessed rate, or if the city's assessed rate?
I think that the research that I've done on that one, the answer to the question is it can be done however the ordinance is written, but primarily the way that it had been successful is that it basically just gave the city the ability to create an ordinance that said if this property by description, for example, say was over 12 units and an owner was going to sell it, they could sell it at whatever their asking price was, fair market value sale. They just had the requirement to contact the city first to see if one of their qualified or designated entities wanted to purchase it before it went out on the open market. So that's the way I understood it. And I think that if there are housing authorities, there's different things you can write into the ordinance, but that's the gist of it, is that it's how your ordinance reads. And it's basically just a first right to, the first opportunity to purchase it at fair market value or whatever your city decides or your housing authority decides to put into that.
And I think, Nash, maybe you could clarify it too in the chat. So I think you're asking about the assessment value too at the county level. So how it's assessed for taxation purposes. So I don't know, the first right of refusal wouldn't, I don't think, get into that unless we had some agreement with the county on kind of that assessment model. So we probably need to ask some of our friends at the county kind of what that would look like, and your other question too, so we can follow up on those questions for you.
Great. Did anyone have any other questions that we can answer for you today? I know it was kind of a short meeting. We wanted to just make sure we've got a lot of work to do here to kind of get our housing assessment out, restructure towards the end of the year, and then see what we look like come January. I'm not seeing anything else. So with that, I will wish you all a very, very happy holiday season, and stay safe, be well, and I will see you in January.